What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Fossil Cup for the Great League. This is a league where only Pokemon that are water, rock, and steel types are allowed. So we've got the top 20 ranked Pokemon here from PvPoke, and then we're going to look at 10 top teams. So without further ado, let's hop into these rankings. We've got Gastrodon at the lead, we've got Ferrothorn and Shadow Ferrothorn at 2 and 3, Jellicent at 4, Togedemaru at 5. Poliwrath making a comeback at number 6. We've got Shadow Scissor, but it's actually on Fury Cutter for this meta, which does make sense, and you'll see why. We've got Registeel also making a comeback at number 8. The regular Scissor, Berserker, always a fun pick. Shadow Whiscash making a comeback. There's your Bug Bite Fortress. We've got Lanturn making a comeback. Lucario in the top 20 of anything, imagine that. Shadow Quagsire. We've got Aqua Breed Paldean Tauros. Not many people have this Pokemon for the Great League. We've got Shadow Poliwrath, Steelix, Ludicolo as your Razor Leafer, one of the only grass types other than Ferrothorn in this meta, and Golisopod. And you'll notice Golisopod is actually on Shadow Claw, just because neutrally it makes it better in this meta, because Fury Cutter is widely resisted by Steels and by Jellicent as a ghost. So opting for the Shadow Claw there. So without further ado, let's take a look at 10 top teams. So the very first team we're going to take a look at is Gastrodon Double Bug Steel. This is an ABB style team, which is because Gastrodon is just incredibly strong neutrally, but obviously it doesn't want to see grass types. So we've got two answers to grass types in the back. Obviously, if you don't see a grass on the lead and you end up safe switching into your Scizor or your Fortress, either could work. You might bait out something that the other one doesn't want to see. You can punish it with Gastrodon, and then the other room's free. Obviously, this is a very strong team, and you can take a look just at the rankings all the way down. Gastrodon looks incredibly strong, and so does Fortress, and then even Scizor, the Shadow Scizor looks decent, and maybe you can grab shields or maybe run away with the game if it ends up getting a boost with the Night Slash or even Trailblaze. I mean, this thing can absolutely go off. The pacing on Fury Cutter is nuts. Less than 10 turns to even get to a Night Slash is wild, and only 12 to the Trailblaze. So, yeah, looks like a very strong team. The next team we're going to take a look at is also an ABB style team. We've got two steel types in the back that are weak to fire and fighting. Steelix is the safe swap to lure out that weakness, because if it's like a Poliwrath, for example, that it lures out, then it has super effective Thunder Fang and Psychic Fangs, so it can actually play very neutrally in that matchup. And then same with Lucario. Lucario is just very glassy, so Psychic Fangs being neutral, and then Thunder Fangs being neutral as well, makes that an okay matchup there, especially if it's running Thunder Punch and Shadow Ball, which it wants in this meta. So yeah, could be a great safe swap there. And then Ferrothorn in the back roams free after Jellicent punishes if Steelix is unable to flip switch. The next team we're going to take a look at is also an ABB style team. This one is Araquanid Double Steel. Both Pokemon in the back are weak to fire, they're weak to fighting, and they're weak to ground. So Araquanid as a water bug is your answer to all three. And then Berserker is just a very flexible save swap and can potentially grab shields in pretty much any situation with that close combat. And then obviously it has Trailblaze for all the water types. So I think its moveset in this meta is of course very strong because it has play into the other steels as well as the waters, which is a little bit rare, I guess, in this meta. And then it also you can also use all your shields on this Pokemon in order to flip switch if you need to, because the other two Pokemon are very bulky and create a great core otherwise. The next team we're going to take a look at, and one that I'm personally very excited to try out, is, would you guess it, another ABB style team. One thing about ABB style teams I'll quickly mention is that they just perform better in limited metas, because there's so few typings that it becomes very RPS. So you either flip switch with your safe swap or you lure out an answer, and then two shield whatever's in the back, and that's kind of how you have to play these limited metas. But for this team, for this perspective, we've got Togedemaru, which beats everything except for grounds, fighters, and fires. And look at that win rate right down the front there. I mean, that is absolutely absurd. Of course, this is the one, and assuming baits, so who knows how accurate that is. However, we've got 2 answers to its weaknesses in the back. Everything, you'll notice that everything it loses to is weak to fighting, except for the Mud Boys, of course, but that's a neutral matchup for the 2 Pokemon in the back. In fact, that's a positive matchup for Tauros because you have Trailblaze. And then you have Double Kick and Counter for Ferrothorn, for Lucario, for Steelix, so everything that Togedemaru doesn't really want to see. But yeah, this team looks to be super strong, and I'm definitely going to be showcasing this one on my channel, most likely. The next team we're going to take a look at is also kind of an ABB style team, where both Pokemon don't really want to see grass, such as Ferrothorn or Ludicolo. Obviously, those are negative matchups for the Pokemon in the back, but like Whiscash on Ferrothorn, Mudshot and Mudbomb are still neutral, and you could even run Blizzard on Whiscash in this meta, because Blizzard, if you're going to run it as a safe swap, could catch those 2 Pokemon off guard. It's a nuke, it does massive damage, especially with the Shadow bonus. And then obviously Lanturn would roam free because it can't really do anything against Ferrothorn, but against Ludicolo, Spark and Thunderbolt are neutral because it's also half water. So they do have some decent neutral play in this meta, and then obviously their strong matchups are very strong matchups. And then Corviknight makes a great core because it beats both of those grass types that Lanturn and Whiscash don't want to see. The next thing we're going to take a look at does have Ludicolo, and it has Lucario as well, and you're going to see a Shadow Heatran on the bottom as well. And the thought behind this team was I wanted really fast wins or really fast losses, because obviously there are times you're just going to get RPS'd in these metas. But Ludicolo is one of your only Razor Leafers in this meta. There's also Kartana, but that's also weak to fighting, so I didn't want to be triple weak to fighting with this team. So we've got Ludicolo on the lead, and then you've got 2 Pokemon in the back that are weak to ground and fighting. So obviously Ludicolo as a Razor Leaf are going to deal with your grounds, as well as Poliwrath, which is like your main fighter. And then if it's Lucario, then the 2 matchups in the back are neutral there. And like I mentioned, this is like an RPS focused pseudo fast move damage team as well. You can see just by the graphic here in the middle that we've got the wins are really hard wins and the losses are pretty hard losses, and that's just kind of the nature of this team. But I mean, it's very ABB style. I mean, just straight down the list: Gastrodon, Ludicolo beats both Pokemon on the back, lose to Ferrothorn. Ludicolo loses to both Pokemon on the back beat, and it's like that for pretty much the entire way. So very strong team. It looks like Gastrodon could be a core breaker for this team, but you could probably 2-shield through that with Razor Leaf, because Razor Leaf is still neutral there, and if you shield the X-Scissors and it's not running Fury Cutter, then that could become a potentially positive matchup for Ludicolo in the 2s. And yeah, I mean, Melmetal, that could be a little tricky for Ludicolo, but I think that would be neutral or even positive for Lucario and Heatran in the back. I could see an argument to be made that maybe you don't want to run Shadow Ball in this meta. Maybe you want to run like the Blaze Kick, so on Lucario, but we'll have to see. The next team we're going to take a look at is an ABC style team. So finally taking a look at an ABC style team, if you like these instead. This one has Shadow Quag on the lead. You've got Glisspot as your safe swap, which I mentioned is running Shadow Claw in this meta, so it's not as easily walled on the swap by like Jellicent. And then you have Shadow Metang in the back as your answer to Quagsire's weaknesses in grass. It is a steel, it is a Fury Cutter user, so the core between those 2 is of course very strong. And then Shadow Quagsire is just very flexible into everything except for like Ferrothorn and Poliwrath, which both wall it. So that's why our 2 answers in the back do okay into both of those. Glisspot is of course neutral in the Ferrothorn. Of course, you just have to get the shield call right on the Thunder. And then Metang, obviously with super effective Psyshocks for the Poliwrath, And then it actually beats Ferrothorn, even though its charge moves are resisted, just because the Fury Cutter Shadow damage really adds up. And of course, Bullet Seed and Power Whip are walled on Metang. The next team we're going to take a look at is another ABC style team. We've got all three of the starter typings to cover everything in the meta that you could possibly imagine. You are ABA weak to fighting with this team, but if it's a Poliwrath, you can actually just stay in with Ferrothorn, and that's a neutral matchup that you actually win in the 0 or 1 shield scenario. And if it's a Lucario, then Poliwrath and Magcargo have better matchups in the back. So Ferrothorn also struggles against other steals in this meta, as it can only hit for neutral with Thunder, unless it's Togedemaru, which then in that case completely walls it. So that's why we have 2 steal answers in the back as well. The next team that we're going to take a look at is an ABB style team with Alolan Sandslash and Double Water. So the sims on the right are for the Shadow, but they are identical to the non-Shadow in this meta, I noticed. And I would almost recommend using the non-Shadow with this team just because of how glassy it is. The only reason I chose the Shadow here is because it's ranked a little higher in PvPoke. That said, you could always replace Pelipper for Mantine for extra bulk if needed as well. One thing I will mention about this team specifically is that, for one, you definitely do want to run Shadow Claw on Sandslash in this meta because there are a lot of Water-type Pokemon in this meta. But I'd also recommend running Aerial Ace over Ice Punch on Sandslash because it also hits your grasses for super effective damage. Except for Ferrothorn, where it's neutral, but Ice Punch would have been neutral anyways. Of course, you do drop the stab damage, but it actually has a better win rate with Aerial Ace. So that's kind of weird. Ice Punch Sandslash actually has a negative win rate against the meta, going 12, 15, and 1 in the 1 shield scenario, but Aerial Ace goes positive with a 14, 13, 1. Record, and that's only with not optimized IVs. If you have optimized IVs close to the rank 1 on your Alolan Sandslash, then suddenly your record jumps to 16 and 12 with Aerial Ace. So I have no idea why Ice Punch is recommended for this meta. I think it's just because Sandslash always runs Ice Punch and Drill Run, but Aerial Ace is the way to go if you're able to grab shields with your Pokemon in the back. Then suddenly you have super effective coverage with Aerial Ace for Poliwrath on the lead, so if it ever comes down to that. You hit Ludicolo for super effective damage instead of neutral. You still have Drill Run for all the steals in this meta. So I think it's going to be a very strong Pokemon that can Core Break, and then obviously Double Water to deal with your weaknesses in the back. You're weak to fire, fighting, and ground on Sandslash, so Samurott as just a spammy water type Pokemon. And then Pelipper, resisting ground and fighting, and a water type that can hit for super effective damage against the fires, which I don't expect to see much of, but if you do, then it does have super effective damage there. Now the last team that we're going to take a look at today is another ABC style team with a weakness to grass on the lead and then 2 answers to grass on the back. This team could struggle with both Ferrothorn and Corviknight. Those are tricky matchups for both the Gastrodon and the Toxapex, but obviously Toxapex is niche in the sense that it's going to be good into those fast move damage teams later in the season, I think, because it beats both Poliwrath and Ludicolo, which I think is very unique in this meta. And so if you do see a Ferrothorn or a Corviknight, then you're going to have to just kind of play out that matchup with Gastrodon and then maybe catch out of it into your Toxapex once you get them a little bit low, because Gastrodon is just so strong neutrally. It doesn't lose any matchups hard. So besides Ludicolo, of course, which you have 2 answers to in the back. So yeah, this is, I think, more of a late game, end of the week type team, or when this cup comes back around, it's going to be even better. And also Corviknight, when this cup comes back around, because it's coming back later in the season, is actually going to be running Air Cutter, which means it's going to be even better than it currently is. So very excited for that update once it gets its August Community Day. But yeah, that's going to be 10 top teams for the Fossil Cup. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.